So I came to work on Deep Rising, I think just through a referral. The effects were being designed by Rob Bottin and the shop was being run by Stéphane Dupuis. I was kind of in the second tier of hiring. There was already a few of my friends working on the show already. In fact, I got a call from one of them, not directly from Stéphane Dupuis, but one of the guys working on the show, and they were overloaded with all these bodies they were building for a corridor, and they asked if I wanted to come out and join in the fun, and of course I did. I was way early in my career, and it was exciting to suddenly hear that we could have some fun building all these bodies. It was still fairly early in production. I walked into this shop and there was probably 20 skeletons there. So we got a whole bunch of these skeletons, and Stéphane kind of placed them in all these neat positions, and we cemented them into place and then used various things to create kind of like the disgorged, fleshy, gooey look. Dennis Pollock, who was a member of the crew, one of his great jobs was he had to make all the goo. And I remember just seeing 5-gallon pails just as far as the eye could see. I'm sure he made 200 gallons of goo just mixing it with his arm.
See, I told you this was exciting.
It was a small shop. It was situated right on the Bridge Studios where we were filming Deep Rising. So it was very handy for us. We could build stuff and literally walk it to set. It was a lot of fun too. We kept it pretty light. We got to do a lot of different things, and I think for a person who was really young getting into this, and this is only my second feature film at this point, it was extremely educational. Stéphane helped me learn a lot about my painting skills and how to bring them out, which was really helpful for me. It was a very evenly paced shop as well. We had a lot of time to do things, which was kind of nice. And then it was our job to dress the goo into the set. It was dripping everywhere, and I don't think the camera department appreciated walking in with all their equipment and getting dripped on by the goo, but it looked really cool. We'd spent 13 days doing this corridor sequence with all these melted bodies of people, and then we had second unit days. So the DOP for the second unit, Dean Cundy, came in and was photographing little pops of our melted bodies. Stéphane made a little clay Mickey Mouse and kind of stuck it amongst the bodies, and we gooped it up and everything so that it would appear in the middle of the dailies. I'm not quite sure what they thought of it, but I thought it was pretty funny. We used silicone for dummy body of the captain, and I had never really seen that done before, so that was a learning experience. We made the molds out of fiberglass and created the skins out of silicone, and painting silicone was new, and you had to kind of create your own paints to paint with them, so that was a learning experience.
Oh, yeah. Well, you just kind of quickly mentioned it.
We did do one puppet, which unfortunately got cut, and that was for the captain's death scene. The captain was originally supposed to be crushed by a tentacle and then dragged in through a hole in the floor. And in the film, that's essentially what happens. It just happens extremely quickly. We had a leg that was actually made out of a medical prosthetic leg that would break and come up into the guy's shoulder, and then he'd get dragged under. We also had a foam rubber tentacle that was mechanized to curl around this dummy body that we had made. The body was rigged to collapse. The head, which I did the most work on, was mechanized so that the jaw would move, its head would rotate at 4 points. I think the gag that I worked most on for the captain's death scene was all the mechanics in the head. The captain's head was rigged to move at 4 different points. The jaw would open, the tongue would protrude, the eyes would bleed, a piece of brain pops out, his ears would bleed, his mouth would bleed. It was a very messy effect. We actually brought it up, and I think the crew wasn't quite sure what to make out of it initially when we got it into position. It worked so well that when the gag was done, we got a round of applause, which I rarely see. I certainly didn't expect it that day. It was a lot of fun. Messy, but a lot of fun. The captain's death scene that we shot went into dailies, and they looked at it and they thought, yeah, that's really cool. We can never show this. It was just a little too bloody, I guess, for what they were looking for. Rob had sent up some tentacles that were used for certain scenes where the monster's tentacles would smash into the walls and dent them. And Rob worked primarily out of his LA shop. He only came up to Vancouver for a brief amount of time. So I met him when we were working on this particular character named Billy, who has the misfortune of ending up inside the creature and ends up getting shot out of one of the tentacles and landing on the ground in a semi-digested state.
Basically what we did was the molds, the sculptures and molds were done at Rob Bottin's shop and sent to us in Vancouver. So we ran or processed prosthetics, meaning that we took the molds and poured gelatin into them to create the appliances, which were then glued onto the actor. And then once we got on set, it was my job, along with another artist, Bill Terzakis, and our job was to goo the actor up before each take. You know, and this is one of the early marriages of digital and practical, where he kind of comes up and he's, you know, looking like he's had acid thrown on him. It's the acid burning away his flesh. And it was just a really cool marriage of the two technologies coming together. But anyway, when we were shooting it, it was my job with Bill to slime this guy up. So we would constantly putting all this slime on him, and he would get up on this little beam and then fall into place. And we must have probably did 5 or 6 takes of that. And on the last take, we just heard Stephen Summers say, "Pour the whole bucket onto him." And we're like, is he serious? And Bill's like, I don't know. So we just kind of standing there, and Bill just kind of backed away a little bit, and I was standing there and I went, okay. So I just picked up the bucket and literally dumped it on this poor guy. And I don't think that's what Rob wanted, because I think I heard him scream, "No, don't do it." But it was too late. We did it and we shot it. And I think that was the last take.
The prevailing opinion or attitude towards digital effects, I think initially there was some worry that it was going to take over.
I think we in the practical effects biz were starting to kind of see that maybe digital effects might take some of our work. But films like Deep Rising and Men in Black started to replace things that commonly would have been done in a practical makeup effect. I think that this movie was a good example of digital married with practical effects to give the best effect.
I think looking back on it now, what I saw with it was the genesis of the type of filmmaking we do now, where you see CG and makeup effects getting along to such a degree that they just complement one another. I learned a lot, I think, on that movie myself, just being in the environment I was in, working with Stefan and Rob and all my friends in there was just an amazing way to learn. It was so early in my career, I couldn't have asked for a more positive experience. It was probably one of the last times I think Rob worked on a monster movie, and being able to be part of that in itself was pretty amazing.
Hello. I'm here to tell the difference between type A blood and type B blood.
When I finally saw the film, I thought it was amazing. I thought that the digital creature was really cool. I thought that what digital did with our makeup effects, of, you know, for the few things that were blended together, worked really well. I thought the Billy Clint Curtis death was amazing, and I'd never seen anything like that before. And it really worked well, and it was, again, a great marriage of the two disciplines coming together. And that's the way it should be. I still think that you should not rely on one or the other. If you can use both of them to create the best effect, why not do that? But no, it was a great film. It was an honor to be a part of it. It's, yeah, great memories.